Grandma, if you don't help me, I don't know what will happen. She's not who you think she is. The whispered words jolted me from sleep, my heart pounding as I fumbled for the bedside lamp. Lucas's voice trembled through the phone, fear lacing every syllable. Lucas? What's wrong? Where are you? I asked, struggling to shake off the fog of sleep. I'm in my room. Please, Grandma, you have to believe me. She's. The line went dead. I stared at the silent phone, my grandson's plea echoing in my ears. My name is Martha, and at 58, I thought I'd seen it all. Widowed, mother of 3, grandmother. Life had thrown its share of curveballs. But nothing could have prepared me for that midnight call. I dialed Eli's number, my fingers shaking. 1 ring. 2. 3. Mom? Eli's groggy voice answered. What's going on? Is Lucas okay? I demanded, already throwing on clothes. He's fine, Mom. Sleeping. What's this about? I hesitated, Lucas's warning ringing in my ears. I had a bad dream. Sorry to wake you. It's okay. Get some rest, all right? I hung up, my mind racing. Something was wrong in that house, and I was going to find out what. The next morning, I stood on Eli's doorstep, a forced smile plastered on my face. The door swung open, revealing Nina's perfectly made-up face. Martha. What a surprise, she exclaimed, her tone a touch too bright. I was in the neighborhood. I lied, stepping inside. Thought I'd drop by. Eli appeared, looking tired. Mom? Everything okay? I hugged him, whispering, we need to talk. Nina's eyes narrowed slightly. I'll make some coffee. As she disappeared into the kitchen, I turned to Eli. Where's Lucas? Still asleep. Mom, what's going on? Before I could answer, Lucas trudged down the stairs, his eyes widening when he saw me. Grandma? I pulled him into a hug, feeling him tremble slightly. Hey, kiddo. Thought I'd surprise you. Nina returned, all smiles. Lucas, honey, why don't you set the table? I watched as Lucas moved to obey, his shoulders hunched. Something in Nina's tone sent a chill down my spine. As we settled around the table, I observed Eli, distracted and distant, Nina, chattering away with forced cheerfulness, and Lucas, silent and withdrawn. So, Lucas, I said casually, how's school going? He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. Fine. Nina cut in smoothly. Oh, he's doing wonderfully. Top of his class, aren't you, sweetie? Lucas flinched almost imperceptibly. I caught Eli's questioning glance, but he said nothing. As the morning wore on, I felt the tension building. Something was very wrong in this house, and I was determined to uncover the truth. For Lucas's sake, and for the sake of our family, I wouldn't rest until I knew what was really going on behind closed doors. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a battle that would test the very foundations of our family. I lingered at Eli's house, watching the family dynamics unfold. Nina's charm seemed forced, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. Eli moved through the house like a ghost, distracted and distant. Mom, you don't have to stay, Eli said, glancing nervously at Nina. I'm sure you have things to do. I waved him off. Nonsense. I'm enjoying spending time with my family. Nina's lips tightened. Well, we do have plans later. Oh. I raised an eyebrow. Anything special? Just a quiet evening at home, Nina replied smoothly. Right, Lucas? Lucas, who had been silently observing from the corner, flinched at the sound of his name. Why, yes, Mom. I frowned, noticing the tremor in his voice. Actually, I was hoping to take Lucas out for ice cream. What do you say, kiddo? Before Lucas could respond, Nina cut in. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Lucas has homework to finish. It's Saturday, I pointed out. Nina's eyes flashed. He's behind on his assignments. Isn't that right, Lucas? Lucas nodded, his gaze fixed on the floor. The fear in his eyes was unmistakable. I'm sure he can spare an hour. I insisted, my voice hardening. Come on, Lucas. Let's go. Nina opened her mouth to protest, but Eli finally spoke up. It's fine, Nina. Let him go with Mom. The tension in the room was palpable as Lucas grabbed his jacket. Nina's smile was brittle as we headed for the door. "Don't be too long," she called after us, her tone deceptively light. Once in the car, Lucas visibly relaxed. "Thanks, Grandma," he whispered. "Lucas," I said gently, "what's going on at home?" He stiffened, fear creeping back into his eyes.
Nothing.
"Everything's fine. You can tell me anything, you know that, right?" Lucas nodded, but remained silent. We drove to the ice cream parlor, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. As we sat with our sundaes, I tried again. "That phone call last night. What did you mean about Nina?" Lucas's spoon clattered against the bowl. I shouldn't have called. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," I said, reaching for his hand. "I'm worried about you, Lucas. Please talk to me." Tears welled in his eyes. She's not who you think she is, Grandma. Suddenly, Lucas's phone buzzed. He jumped, fumbling to check it. The color drained from his face. "We have to go back," he said, his voice trembling.
Now.
"Lucas, wait." But he was already heading for the door. I hurried after him, my heart racing. When we pulled up to the house, Nina was waiting on the porch, arms crossed. Her eyes were cold as Lucas climbed out of the car. "Inside," she snapped.
Now.
Lucas obeyed without a word. I started to follow, but Nina blocked my path. "I think it's time for you to go, Martha," she said, her voice dangerously low. "We appreciate the visit, but we need our family time." I met her gaze, seeing the threat lurking beneath the surface. "This isn't over, Nina," I warned. She smiled, all teeth and no warmth. "Oh, I think it is. Goodbye, Martha." As I drove away, I couldn't shake the image of Lucas's terrified face. Something was very wrong in that house, and I was more determined than ever to get to the bottom of it. No matter what it took, I would protect my grandson from the monster wearing his mother's face. I couldn't sleep that night, haunted by Lucas's frightened eyes and Nina's cold smile. At dawn, I made a decision. I had to see Lucas again, no matter what. I waited until I knew Eli would be at work, then drove to their house. To my surprise, Lucas answered the door, looking exhausted. "Grandma," he whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "Is Nina here?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "She went to the store." "Good.
Get your jacket."
"We're going for a walk." As we strolled through the nearby park, Lucas remained silent, his shoulders hunched. I waited patiently, knowing he needed to open up on his own terms. Finally, he spoke. "I'm sorry about yesterday, Grandma. I shouldn't have called you like that." "Lucas, honey, you can always call me. No matter what." He nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "It's just, Mom, What does she do, Lucas?" He took a shuddering breath. "She says things, terrible things, about me, about Dad. She makes us feel like we're nothing." My heart clenched. "Oh, sweetheart. But that's not the worst part," he continued, his voice barely audible. "Sometimes when Dad's not home, she hits me." Rage surged through me. "Lucas, why haven't you told anyone?" "She said if I did, she'd hurt Dad. Or you." "I was scared, Grandma. I'm still scared." I pulled him into a tight hug, feeling him tremble against me. "It's okay, Lucas. I'm here now. We'll figure this out together." As we walked back to the house, Lucas suddenly tensed. "Wait," he said. "I need to show you something." He led me to his room, closing the door behind us. From beneath a loose floorboard, he pulled out a worn notebook. "It's my journal," he explained. "I've been writing everything down. The things she says, the things she does. I thought maybe someday someone would believe me." With shaking hands, I opened the journal. Page after page detailed Nina's cruelty, her manipulation, her threats. My vision blurred with tears and fury as I read Lucas's anguished words. "Lucas, we need to show this to your father." Fear flashed in his eyes.
No.
"We can't. She'll know I told, and she won't hurt you anymore," I promised fiercely. "I won't let her." Just then, we heard the front door open. Nina's voice called out, "Lucas? Where are you?" Lucas paled, shoving the journal back under the floorboard. You have to go, Grandma. Please. I hesitated, torn between staying to protect him and knowing my presence would only make things worse for now. I'll be back, I whispered, squeezing his hand. Stay strong, Lucas. I love you. I slipped out the back door just as Nina's footsteps approached Lucas's room. As I drove away, my mind raced with plans. I needed to confront Eli, to make him see the truth about his wife. And I needed evidence, irrefutable proof of Nina's abuse. One thing was certain, I would not rest until Lucas was safe and Nina faced justice for her actions. The battle for my grandson's future had only just begun, and I was prepared to fight with everything I had. I couldn't wait any longer. With Lucas's journal burning a hole in my bag, I called Eli and demanded he meet me at the local diner. No excuses, no delays. When he arrived, looking haggard and confused, I wasted no time. Sit down, Eli. We need to talk about Nina and Lucas. His face paled. Mom, what's this about? I slid the journal across the table. Read it. All of it. For the next hour, I watched my son's world crumble. His hands shook as he turned the pages, his eyes filling with tears and horror. When he finally looked up, I saw a broken man. I didn't know, he whispered. I mean, I knew things weren't great, but this. You didn't know? I couldn't keep the anger from my voice. How could you not know, Eli? Your son is being abused under your own roof. He flinched. Nina, she's always been difficult. But I never thought she'd hurt Lucas. I thought I could handle it, keep the peace. Keep the peace. I hissed. At what cost? Your son's safety? His sanity. Eli buried his face in his hands. What do I do, Mom? If I confront her, she'll deny everything. She'll turn it all around on me, on Lucas. She always does. I leaned forward, my voice steel. You stand up for your son, Eli. You protect him no matter what. And if you won't, I will. He looked up, fear in his eyes. What are you going to do? What I have to. I'm getting Lucas out of that house, with or without your help. Eli's shoulders sagged. She'll fight you. She'll fight dirty. Let her try, I growled. I've faced worse than Nina in my time. As we left the diner, Eli grabbed my arm.
Mom, wait. I
want to help. I need to make this right. I studied his face, seeing determination slowly replacing the fear. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We spent the next few hours planning. Eli would confront Nina, recording the conversation as evidence. Meanwhile, I'd pick up Lucas from school and bring him to my house. We'd file for emergency custody, using the journal and recording as proof. As evening fell, Eli prepared to head home. The weight of what was to come hung heavy between us. Are you sure about this? I asked. Once we start, there's no going back. Eli nodded, a flicker of the sun I raised shining through. I'm sure, Mom. It's time I stood up for Lucas. For all of us. I watched him drive away, pride and worry warring in my chest. Tomorrow would change everything, for better or worse. That night, as I lay in bed, I found myself talking to Jasper's photo on my nightstand. Oh, Jasper, I whispered. I wish you were here. You'd know exactly what to do. I could almost hear his gentle laugh, feel his reassuring hand on my shoulder. You've got this, Martha, he'd say. You're stronger than you know. With a deep breath, I closed my eyes, steeling myself for the battle ahead. Nina might think she had all the power, but she was about to learn what happened when you messed with a grandmother's love. Come morning, the gloves would come off, and I'd show her exactly what I was made of. I knew I needed more than just Lucas's journal to take down Nina. With Eli on board, we had a fighting chance, but I wanted ironclad evidence. That's when I called Lila. Martha, are you sure about this? Lila asked, her voice laced with concern. It sounds dangerous. I don't have a choice, Lila. You should see what she's done to Lucas, to Eli. I need your help. Lila sighed. All right, what's the plan? We spent hours strategizing. Lila, a tech-savvy retiree, would set up hidden cameras and microphones in Eli's house. It felt invasive, but I was past caring about niceties. This was war. The next day, while Nina was at work and Lucas at school, Lila and I snuck into the house. Eli stood watch, his face a mask of nervous determination. "Here," Lila whispered, handing me a tiny microphone. "Put this under the dining room table." As I crawled under the table, I heard Eli's sharp intake of breath. "Mom, Lila, someone's coming." My heart raced as I scrambled to my feet. Lila shoved the remaining equipment into her bag just as the front door opened. Nina's voice rang out. "Eli, are you home?" Eli stepped into the hallway, blocking Nina's view of the living room. "Hey, honey, what are you doing home so early?" I grabbed Lila's arm, and we slipped out the back door, our hearts pounding. Once safely in my car, we let out shaky laughs of relief. "That was close," Lila breathed. "Too close," I agreed. But we did it. Over the next few days, we monitored the recordings. What we heard chilled me to the bone. Nina's verbal abuse was relentless, her manipulation of both Eli and Lucas evident in every interaction. One evening, as Lila and I listened to the day's recordings, we heard something that made my blood run cold. Nina's voice, low and threatening. "If you ever tell anyone about our little talks, Lucas, I'll make sure your precious grandmother has an unfortunate accident." "Understand?" Lila gasped. "Martha, she's threatening you." I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles white. "She's threatening all of us. This ends now." I called Eli immediately. "Get Lucas and come to my house. Now." An hour later, Eli and Lucas sat in my living room, both looking shell-shocked as they listened to the recordings. "I'm so sorry," Eli whispered, pulling Lucas close. "I should have protected you." Lucas buried his face in his father's shoulder, years of pent-up emotion finally breaking free. I turned to Lila. "Call the police. We have everything we need." As Lila made the call, I sat beside Eli and Lucas, wrapping my arms around them both. "It's over," I promised. "She can't hurt you anymore." But even as I said the words, a chill ran down my spine. Nina wouldn't go down without a fight, and I had a feeling the worst was yet to come. As blue lights flashed outside my window, I steeled myself for the confrontation ahead. Nina had no idea what she'd unleashed by threatening my family. It was time to show her exactly what a determined grandmother was capable of. The stage was set for the final confrontation. I had invited Nina, Eli, and Lucas to my house for a family dinner, a ruse to get everyone in one place. Lila was on standby, ready to call the police if things got out of hand. As we sat around the dining table, the tension was palpable. Nina's smile was brittle, her eyes darting between Eli and Lucas, who both looked pale and nervous. "So, Martha," Nina said, her voice sickly sweet, "what's the occasion?" I took a deep breath. "Actually, Nina, there is a reason I asked you all here tonight." I reached into my bag and pulled out Lucas's journal, along with a small recorder. Nina's eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing her face. "What's that?" she asked, her voice sharp. "The truth," I replied, my voice steady. "The truth about who you really are, Nina." Eli reached for Lucas's hand under the table, squeezing it reassuringly. I pressed play on the recorder, and Nina's own voice filled the room, spewing venom and threats. Lucas flinched at the sound, and Eli's face hardened. "You bug my house," Nina hissed, her facade crumbling. "You had no right." "I had every right," I shot back. "You've been abusing my grandson, manipulating my son. Did you think I'd stand by and let that happen?" Nina's eyes darted to Lucas. "You little snitch," she snarled. "I told you what would happen if you talked." Lucas shrank back, but Eli stood up, placing himself between Nina and his son. "Don't you dare threaten him," he growled. Nina laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Oh, now you grow a spine, Eli? After all these years of standing by, letting me do what needed to be done." "What needed to be done?" I echoed, incredulous. "Terrorizing a child? Threatening your own family?" "Family?" Nina spat. "You're not my family. You're just obstacles, all of you. Especially you, Martha. Always interfering, always judging." She lunged across the table, reaching for the recorder. I jerked back, but not before she knocked over a glass of water, sending it crashing to the floor. "Give me that," she screamed, her composure completely shattered. Eli grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "It's over, Nina. We have everything we need. The police are on their way." Nina's face contorted with rage. "You can't do this to me. I'll destroy you all." She broke free from Eli's grip and made a dash for the door. But as she yanked it open, she found herself face to face with two police officers, Lila standing behind them with a grim expression. "Nina Thompson," one officer said, "we'd like you to come with us." As the officers led Nina away, her threats and curses echoing through the house, I turned to Eli and Lucas. They clung to each other, tears streaming down both their faces. "It's over," I said softly, pulling them into a hug. "She can't hurt you anymore." But even as I said the words, I knew this was just the beginning. The road to healing would be long and difficult. But as I held my son and grandson, I felt a fierce determination. We would get through this together as a family. Nina might have tried to tear us apart, but in the end, she had only made us stronger. And as I watched the police car drive away, I silently thanked Jasper for giving me the strength to fight for our family. The days following Nina's arrest were a whirlwind of police statements, lawyer meetings, and hushed conversations. Eli and Lucas moved in with me temporarily, the weight of their ordeal evident in their slumped shoulders and haunted eyes. One evening, as we sat in my living room, the tension finally broke. Eli, his voice barely above a whisper, said, "I can't believe I let this happen. I failed you, Lucas. I failed everyone." Lucas, curled up on the couch, looked up at his father with tears in his eyes.
You didn't fail me, Dad.
"She fooled all of us." I watched the exchange, my heart aching for both of them. "Eli," I said gently, "what matters now is what you do next. You have a choice to make." Eli nodded, his jaw set with determination. "I know, Mom. I'm done being afraid. I'm standing with Lucas, no matter what."
Just then, the doorbell rang.
We all froze, exchanging wary glances. I opened the door to find Nina standing there, her eyes wild and her hair disheveled. "Where's my family?" she demanded, trying to push past me. Eli appeared behind me, his voice firm. "They're not your family anymore, Nina. It's over." Nina's face contorted with rage. "You can't do this to me. After everything I've done for you, for that ungrateful brat." Lucas flinched at her words, and I felt a surge of protective anger. "That's enough, Nina. You need to leave." "Leave," she screeched. "I'm not going anywhere until I talk to my son." Eli stepped forward, placing himself between Nina and the rest of us. "He's not your son anymore. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm seeking full custody of Lucas." For a moment, Nina looked stunned. Then her expression twisted into something ugly and dangerous. "You'll regret this, Eli. All of you will. I'll make sure you never see Lucas again." She lunged forward, her hands clawing at Eli's face. I grabbed her arm, trying to pull her back, but she was like a woman possessed. "Stop it, Nina," I shouted. "This isn't helping anyone." Suddenly, Lucas's voice cut through the chaos. "Leave us alone," he yelled, his voice cracking with emotion. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." Nina froze, her eyes locking onto Lucas. For a moment, I saw a flicker of something, regret, pain, cross her face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold fury. "You'll all pay for this," she hissed, backing away. "This isn't over." As she stormed off, I quickly closed and locked the door. We all stood there, breathing heavily, the weight of what had just happened settling over us. Eli turned to Lucas, pulling him into a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you, son," he murmured. "We're going to be okay." I watched them, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. Nina's threat hung in the air, a dark cloud over our moment of triumph. But as I looked at Eli and Lucas, clinging to each other with newfound strength, I knew we would face whatever came next together. The road ahead would be challenging, but we had taken the first step towards healing. Nina's hold over our family was broken, and in its place, a stronger bond was forming. As I joined the embrace, I silently vowed to protect this fragile new beginning with everything I had. Months passed, and slowly, our family began to heal. Eli and Lucas moved back into their house, reclaiming it as a safe space. I visited often, watching with pride as they rebuilt their relationship. One sunny afternoon, I sat on their porch, sipping lemonade with Lila. Inside, we could hear Eli and Lucas laughing over a board game. "It's amazing how much has changed," Lila mused. "They seem so light now." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. It hasn't been easy, but they're getting there. Just then, Eli stepped out, his face serious. "Mom, can we talk?" I followed him inside, where Lucas was waiting, looking nervous but determined. "What's going on?" I asked, my heart racing. Eli took a deep breath. "We've been thinking about testifying against Nina in court." I sat down, stunned. "Are you sure? That would be incredibly difficult." Lucas spoke up, his voice stronger than I'd heard in months. "We have to, Grandma. For us, and for anyone else she might hurt." Pride swelled in my chest. "If that's what you want, I'll support you every step of the way." The day of the trial arrived, tense and charged with emotion. As Nina was led into the courtroom, her eyes locked onto Lucas. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the old Nina, manipulative, threatening. But Lucas stood tall, unflinching. One by one, we told our stories. Lucas, his voice shaking but resolute, described years of emotional abuse. Eli, tears streaming down his face, admitted his failure to protect his son. And I, fueled by a grandmother's fierce love, laid bare Nina's cruelty and manipulation. When the verdict was read, guilty on all counts, a collective sigh of relief swept through us. Nina's face contorted with rage as she was led away, but her threats fell on deaf ears. She no longer held power over us. Outside the courthouse, we stood together, blinking in the bright sunlight of a new beginning. "It's really over," Eli murmured, his arm around Lucas's shoulders. I squeezed Lucas's hand. "How do you feel, sweetheart?" He looked up at me, a small smile on his face. "Free," he said simply. That evening, we gathered in my backyard for a celebratory barbecue. As I watched Eli and Lucas toss a football, their laughter echoing across the lawn, I felt Jasper's presence more strongly than ever. "We did it, old man," I whispered. "We protected our family." Lila appeared at my side, handing me a glass of wine. "To new beginnings," she said, raising her glass. "And to the strength of family," I added. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over our little gathering, I realized that this was more than just an ending. It was a beginning, a chance for Eli and Lucas to rediscover joy, for our family to grow stronger in the face of adversity. Nina had tried to tear us apart, but in the end, she had only brought us closer together. We had faced our demons, confronted our fears, and come out stronger on the other side. Looking at the faces of my loved ones, I felt a deep sense of peace. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together, bound by the unbreakable ties of love and family. As Lucas caught my eye and flashed me a genuine smile, the first I'd seen in far too long, I knew that everything we had endured had been worth it. We had our family back, stronger and more resilient than ever. And in that moment, surrounded by love and laughter, I knew that we would be okay.